Alright guys, I'm back with another tutorial. So, this is the third tutorial, and in this I will show you about while loops, returning, and more. So, open up your script. So, a loop is a block of code that will loop whatever inside it. So, to create a while loop, you have to type while, and then you have to type a condition. So, if you delete that, you can say local banana equals true. Actually, local condition equals true. So now if you go down a couple lines by pressing enter, you will be able to, if you type while, you can do while condition is equal to true do. So I'll show you what happened here. So condition, and then there's two equal signs. If there's two equal signs, that means it's not assigning a value, because over here it's assigning condition to be true. Over here, since there's two equal signs, it means if condition is true, then this will happen. So when you type it, you type do at the end, and then you press enter, and then it submits it, and then when you press enter again, it goes on to the next line, and then it has this end. This end is the end of the loop. So everything inside this loop will loop. So, as you may know, it has some space in between, like this. There's some space. That's because it's indented. You indent it automatically indents something when you're adding like a loop or a function or anything like that. And it should automatically add that, but if it doesn't, make sure it's adding. And then if you make another loop inside a loop, it'd be indented twice. But right now there's only one indent. So what you can do is, I showed you the wait last time, so you can do like wait 1 at the end, because if you don't have a wait in a while loop, it will crash your game. So make sure you always include a wait in your while loop. So you can do like while in there. Like you can go up here. You can do like local. If you open up the workspace, you can create a part. Then you can make it bigger, maybe really big. And then after you make it big, you can change the anchored and make it anchored. And then in here, you can do local part equals game.workspace.part. So we're now referring to the part like last time. So that's because that's an object value. You can edit the property of an object value by doing part dot. You can change like part dot color. And if you don't, and try and assign it to be red. So if you don't know, I will just pause the video and try and make it red. Just do whatever you think it would make it to be red. Don't run it though. Okay, so the answer is actually color 3.new, and you open the brackets with the quotation marks. So that's how I like to do it. Then you pick the color, you pick red. I'm just going to make this down to 0 so it's all red. And then it's 1, 0, 0, or anything similar to that. And then you can add something after the wait. So I can do part.color equals color 3.new. We can do 0, 1, 0, which is green. And then you can do wait 1. I'm going to do part.color equals color 3.new 0, 0, 1. And this, you can do wait 1 at the end of this. And then you make sure you're at run. You run it. As you can see, it's like that. See, it just changes the color in a loop. So this is how you loop something. But now, let's say after it you want it to be gray, and you do part.color equals color3.new, and then you assign it to be like a gray. But then when you run it, as you can see, it's never going to be gray. That's because it's keep looping this forever and ever. However, we can stop it by doing break. So at the end, we can do break. So that means it changes it to be red, it waits a second, it changes it to be green, it waits a second, it changes it to be blue, it waits a second, then it stops the loop, and then it changes it to be gray. So if you run it, and you can see it's red, then green, then blue, then it's gray. However, you can make this run multiple times by making a variable outside the loop called counter. I can make it be 0. And then I can change the condition to be while counter is less than 5, then it'll do it. And then at the end, we can do if, and then at the end, we can remove the break, and then we can do counter plus counter. Counter equals counter plus 1. So, this is basically creating a counter, and then the condition is, instead of being condition equals true, which means it goes forever, that's while counter is less than 5. So it does all of this, and then it changes the counter, and it adds 1 to the counter. So it would be 0, and the counter is 1, and the counter is 2, and the counter is 3, and the counter is 4, and then the counter is 5, which means it doesn't meet the condition, so it will stop doing the loop. So if you run it, as you can see, it's looping. Did 1 cycle, did 2 cycle, did 3 cycle, did 4 cycle, then it did the 5th cycle, then it turned gray. So it was 0, then 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, and 5. What if you set this to be 1 at the beginning? It'll only do 4 cycles until it's gray. As you can see, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then it will turn gray. So that's basically how loops work. You can change whatever you want in the loops. Just make sure it never repeatedly loops it forever and ever. And I'll tell you what the break does. So whenever, if you just want to stop it, you can just do break. So you can do while condition equals true, then you can do break. Now there's one final thing I wanted to show you. So you see this line, counter equals counter plus 1. We can write that very similar. Instead of counter equals counter plus 1, we can do counter plus equals 1, and it will just add 1 to the variable. Instead of changing it to counter but 1 more, it just adds 1 to it. And then it'll turn gray when it reaches break. So whenever any loop reaches break, it stops the loop. So that is the end of this tutorial on while loops. I will see you in the next one. Bye!